First and foremost, a happy new year to you. Wishing you all a successful and prosperous 2026. Myself personally, I could not wait for 2025 to be over because it was a hard one. It was a difficult year. I'm not going to get too much into it tonight. But I look back on 2025 and there was one massive standout positive, and that was the birth of my third and final child, who was very ill when she was born. 5.5 months on, she's doing fantastic, and so there's definitely a massive standout positive for me, but a very difficult year. And kind of summed it up, a couple of weeks before Christmas, my father-in-law, he very unexpectedly passed away, and he was supposed to be with us on Christmas Day, and it was a strange feeling over Christmas. So yeah, as I said, I could not wait for the start of 2026 and hoping for a better year for myself personally. But I want to do an episode tonight looking back on 2025, because although it was a tough year for me, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I get the sense from talking to a lot of people. Well, last year was a bit of a shit show for many of us. It seemed that not a week went by that there was some big breaking news story, and good news never seems to hit the news. So there was a lot, and it was only when I started researching for this episode I realised just how much happened last year. I'm going to have a look back. I'm not going to have a chance to touch on every story because I'll be here for hours doing an episode, and I've got stuff to do, So I'm going to highlight a few stories, some that feel like they were before 2025 and kind of shocked me as I was going through them. So this is Stu Know Who. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the damn video, and let's get into it. Now, I already said when I was researching for this, there were some stories I looked at and thought, nah, that wasn't in the past 12 months, was it? Because it felt like a lot longer than that. The California wildfires, and they were wild. They lived up to their name on that. There were some scary videos, some scary pictures, testimonies from people, and it seemed to me like, I don't know, 2023, but I suppose because we had so much stuff going on last year, and this was right at the very start, it kind of, life moves on. Not for the people who lost their homes, people who, I'm not sure if people did lose their lives, but people were definitely affected by this. But with the 24/7 news media we have, something as devastating and massive news as this can be forgotten about fairly quickly. So from January the 7th to the 31st, 2025, a series of 14 destructive wildfires affected the LA metropolitan area and San Diego County in California. Fires were exacerbated by drought conditions, low humidity, a build-up of vegetation from the previous winter, and hurricane-force Santa Ana winds, which in some places reached 100 miles per hour. There we go. Tragically, the wildfires, that's quite a big gap, killed between 31 and 440 Obviously, fires are that devastating. I'm sure it can be very difficult to get a definite, but that does seem like a big gap to me. And forced more than 200,000 people to evacuate. That's nearly the size of Plymouth. To bring it back to the UK, Plymouth's down the road, 260,000. That's scary. More than 18,000 homes and structures were destroyed, and it burned over 57,000 acres of land in total. That's mind-blowing. That really is mind-blowing. It was, I think, when it's a first world country and one of the richest parts, I think, of America as well, you just think, wow, they'll rebuild, but it's not something that's going to take a couple of weeks. So yeah, it was some of the people who lost their homes, they might be sanctimonious little arseholes who've always got an opinion. However, you don't wish this upon your worst enemy. This was horrible. Most of the damage was from the two largest fires, which were the Eaton fire in Altadena and the Palisades fire in the Pacific Palisades, both of which were fully contained by the end of January 2025. Municipal fire departments and the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection fought the property fires and wildfires, which were extinguished by tactical aircraft alongside ground firefighting teams. I just want to say, on a side note to this, when the planes come in and do what they're doing with the low flying and dump all that water out the back, fuck me, that's a skill. It's incredible to watch. It genuinely is. And fair play to the pilots, man. They earn their money, put it that way, because that's some mad skills. But also the firefighters as well, and everybody who came together to help in whatever the way they could. The deaths and damage to property from these two fires made them likely the second and third most destructive fires in California's history. In August 2025, researchers from Boston University School of Public Health and the University of Helsinki published a study through the American Medical Association connecting up to 440 deaths that were caused by the wildfires. In October 2025, a 29-year-old man was arrested for allegedly starting the Palisades fire. The man is accused of intentionally setting a fire in Pacific Palisades on the 1st. That fire was thought to be extinguished by the LA Fire Department, but strong winds on January 7th led to a rekindling of the fire, which quickly spread. So there are some pictures which are scary. The fact that this could happen in not only a large metropolitan area, but one as rich as LA is. Look at that, the sky is orange. Look at that smoke in the background as well. It was scary, man. And when I was looking back through 2025, fuck, this felt like a lot longer ago. And I think maybe that really highlights just what a crazy, messed up year 2025 was, when this was major news and it felt like a lifetime ago. Crazy. I was going to say that I hope this new year starts in a better fashion. But on the news today is the tragic fire that's happened in, I think it was in the Swiss Alps, where countless people have tragically lost their lives in yet another fire. Different circumstances, different country. I know they're still investigating, but it's, I hope that's not a sign that 2026 is going to follow the same path. I genuinely want a happy year where, do you know what? I'll settle for a boring year. A boring year would actually be, I believe, something to cherish and hold dear to our heart after what genuinely felt like a mad one. Now I've, as I already said, I've pulled up a few stories and a few things that really stood out to me. I was looking through. If I was to talk about every single major incident that happened, I would be here, I don't even know how long, recording. I've had to pick a few, and there's a few that you might get annoyed that I've not talked about. Not that I've prioritised, I just had to pick some. So let's go into the next story. Now, the Pope dying. I had to bring up this one. I believe that the Catholic faith is, I think, the largest religion in the world. And whether you are Catholic or not, I am not. I am a Protestant, but the Pope dying is, well, it's major news. It really is major news, and this garnered a lot of attention, a lot of news attention, and rightfully so. I'm sure it's over 1 billion Catholics in the world, you know, and something like this, of course, it is going to take up a lot of news headlines, a lot of news feed on news channels, and this was just another. This should be a what do you remember 2025 for? You would hope there'd be one tragedy, one monumental happening that took place in 2025. There were so many of them. So 2025 began with Catholics around the world uniting in prayer for Pope Francis's health as he entered the hospital on February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Again, right at the start of the year, he was admitted to Gemelli Hospital in Rome for respiratory infection that progressed to bilateral pneumonia, so pneumonia in both lungs. Some bad shit, requiring a prolonged hospitalization that lasted almost 6 weeks. I remember him being in hospital. I remember it being news. Again, I'm shocked looking back. There was 6 weeks that he spent in hospital. I know it was big news at the time, but that much happened you kind of forget about it. So soon after, on March the 29th, the pontiff was readmitted into the hospital with difficulty breathing. On April the 21st, the day after Easter, which is a huge date in the Christian faith, Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88 from a stroke, coma, and irreversible cardiovascular collapse, according to the death certificate published just over 12 hours after his death. On April the 26th, more than 400,000 people filled St. Peter's Square for the funeral of Pope Francis, as well said goodbye to the first Latin American Pope who led the Catholic Church for 12 years. Catholic Church has had its problems. I'm not getting into that one this evening, and I don't know enough about the Pope to know what kind of Pope he was. As I said, I'm not a Catholic. This was someone you would describe as a world leader without being an elected leader, but he was the leader of a faith, I'm sure I'm right in saying the biggest faith on the country, in the world, sorry. So this was huge news. My own mother is a Catholic herself. You know, I know people who are Catholics, I know people who are atheists and disagree with all religions, who still knew the ins and outs of this story, because it was such a major story that happened over a couple of months. You know, he was in hospital, he come out of hospital, he went back, you know, it was, and the death of anybody, you know, it's going to have an effect on people. But when you are a leader who is adored and followed by so many people, obviously death, fully aware. I am more so fully aware than perhaps I was a month ago. Death comes to us all eventually, and it was an absolute massive story, and another sign that 2025 was just going to be the year that keeps kicking you in the nuts. So on May the 7th, 133 cardinal electors gathered from all corners of the globe in the Sistine Chapel for the start of the conclave to elect a new pope after 4 ballots. Cardinal Robert Prevost was elected on May the 8th as the 267th Bishop of Rome and the leader of the Catholic Church. He took the name Pope Leo XIV. He is a Chicago native, and it became the first American Pope in church history. So here's some of the most impactful images from the PayPal, that's something different, transition, beginning with Pope Francis' last general audience before being admitted to hospital. He was not a well-looking guy. You could see that. It's just in any normal year, this would be news that will stick with you. But I look back on 2025 and it just seemed like one of many things that happened. And again, when I wanted to do this episode, just as a bit of a look back on 2025, I'll be honest, I kind of forgot this happened. there are other things that are on my mind that are going on and currently still in the world, which I'm going to bring a few of them up. But it was, I actually, as I was doing it, I went and saw my wife and I went, when did the Pope die? And she's like, and she was trying to think. I went, it was this year. You know, and we were both, nah, it's longer than that. Surely. I don't know whether, obviously we've got the Hadron Collider in, is it CERN? Have they done some shit this year? I don't know. They turned some shit on because with my conspiratorial head on, this year just seems to be one major event after another. If we do live in a simulation, maybe they're trying to wrap the series up. You know, maybe they're done with us and they're just throwing all the stories in at the end, because that's kind of 2025 has had that feel to it, where it's just constant major news story, and it's yeah, I want a boring 2026. I want the world to just calm the fuck down, and I want to do this video a year from now and say 2026. And that was boring, wasn't it? I will settle for that, definitely. But I've got more stuff to look back on from 2025. So, the Middle East. That is that has not left the news for 2-3 years. Can't even remember how long it's been in the news for. It's always in the news. The Middle East there's always been issues. Some we've created, some that are created by the people there. I'm not going to get into the politics of it because I do not know enough. You know, I'm honest enough to know what I know. I can give my opinions on stuff, but I am by no means an expert when it comes to this. But the Middle East is it's a shit show, you know, call it how it is. And I'm sure for a long time, the Middle East, things that are happening in the Middle East were confined there. One thing we cannot help but notice over the last couple of years is whatever is happening in the Middle East is being not fought out, that's the wrong words, but is being openly protested, spoken, argued about on our shores, on our streets. What I do know is October the 7th, I'm sure it's October the 7th, 2023, I believe. Some bad dudes from Hamas come over with and done some atrocious, awful things, and a lot of hostages were taken, and a lot of innocent people were died, including at a music festival that I believe, if I remember right, was a music festival for peace. It was sick, it was disgusting, it was vile. I don't know enough to know what helped to create that vile situation happening. I do know since then I've seen the response from Israel, and again, I am not an expert, but it definitely seems like it's gone beyond where it should have done. It's I see, from a selfish point of view, when I look at my country, which I love my country, if we had a legitimate claim to being oppressed by another country, what would I do? What would I want my country to do? Truthfully, I don't know. I don't think I would be going around doing some of the stuff that Hamas did. If my country was to be invaded by what has been prescribed in the UK as a terrorist organisation, and my country was victim to the things that had happened, I'd want a bit of revenge. But to what extent? But from a purely selfish and this is my country, this is where I live, I know we have veterans who are on the streets. And that is something I feel that people in this country can actually have an impact on. We have kids who are going hungry. We have families in temporary accommodation. This to me is something I feel like we can have an impact on in our country. And this is not to turn a blind eye. Not at all, because we are one planet. But charity starts at home. That was something I was always taught as a kid. Charity starts home. And you know, if you have ever been on a plane and actually paid attention to the safety advice before you take off, they always say if the oxygen mask come down, you put your own on first, because you cannot help others if you are passing out by lack of oxygen. And that's the way I view it. If this country was in a, not even in a perfect situation, but far rosier than we are, then you can extend that help to other countries. This country is going down the crapper and going down the crapper fast. You know, and I thought the last lot were a not so funny joke. This lot were even less funny of a joke. And that's probably why I don't know too much about the Middle East. I know bits, but not enough to say this is who's to blame or this is what should happen. All I know is we are constantly hearing on the news about the Middle East. We have constant protests going off, and it's putting our country on edge. Again, I hope for peace. I wish we lived in a world where it was all rainbows and unicorns. We don't. And man is flawed. Always have been, and probably always will be. So, to go through the Middle East. So, Israel has threatened escalated military action against Hezbollah if it doesn't withdraw further north by the end of the year. Hamas has rejected calls to disarm, and no other countries have agreed to forcibly disarm the group as part of a stabilization force in Gaza. The central risk facing the region is cascading escalation from Gaza to Lebanon to Iran and beyond. As a turbulent year comes to a close, the Middle East is entering another period of acute strategic tension. There is a complex web of players involved: Israel, Iran, Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, alongside armed non-state actors including Hezbollah, Hamas, and Houthis, and multiple factions within Iraq's Popular Mobilization Force. No one should confuse the patchwork of a temporary ceasefire agreement in place throughout the region for a sustainable deterrence and peace, as underlying issues remain unresolved and adversaries' desired end states remained diametrically opposed. Now, the issue we've got, and this is I'm not blaming a faith. I actually know Muslims. I am friends with some Muslims who are some of the kindest and most lovely people that I've ever met. You know, the kind of people who invite you into the home and take care of you. When it comes to terrorism, and again, I'm not saying Islam, but Islamists, they account for such a high proportion of terrorist attacks. We have a problem in our country at the moment with people coming over who we don't know who they are. Again, I'm all for helping people, but charity starts at home, and as long as you're in a position to help, we should do our bit. Our country's pretty fucked at the minute, that's how it feels. And yet we basically have an open border. Majority of the people coming across on boats are young, fighting age men from some of these countries that we spoke about, and maybe 99.9% of people who come over are the nicest, most genuine, big-hearted, warm people in the world. That 0.1% is all it takes. The Ariana Grande concert at the Manchester Arena, that's one dude with the help of his one brother. That's two guys. We had 40, 50,000, whatever it was this year that come across. You don't need a handful. Our security forces need to be lucky every time. They need to be lucky once. And that's what scares me. Not scares me to the point where I'm gonna not live my life, because ultimately that's what terrorists want you to do. It scares me what the backlash will be afterwards, because this country already feels like a tinderbox. We have protests going on. We've had them going on for years, a couple of years now. A lot of pro-Palestine protests. I don't know enough about Palestine, about Israel. What I do know is I've never feared being attacked in a Jewish terrorist attack. I've just not. But then I don't live in Israel. I don't know what it's like. You know, what I do know is we seem to be importing this conflict onto our streets. And it's just another thing that has happened this year that seems to have been constantly on the news. Protests, people arguing, fighting with each other, and just a madness. And some very, very, very large protests have taken place, which actually leads me on to the next story that I found as well. So, with regards to protests, the Palestine protests were something that seems to be happening on a weekly basis this year. Now, why is this frozen on me? There we go. They are not the only protests that have taken place and seem to have spread and got bigger. I actually, when I drive down the street and I see Union Jacks or St. George's flags, the thing that baffles me is when I see other countries, when I've been to other countries, there is pride in their flag. Genuine pride, genuine support for their country. I've actually had a feeling of pride seeing the flags of my country about. We can hang up Ukraine flags, Palestine flags, pride flags. To me, as long as it's not offensive, then you do what you want. It struck me as strange when flying a St. George's flag, the flag of this country we live in, was a contentious thing to do. And I think maybe it's a sign of just how far we have fallen as a country, how pissed off we are, how pissed off a lot of people are when we're flying the flag of our own country as an act of rebellion. that's laughable. Imagine going to America and seeing an American flag and say, "Oh, are you standing up against your government?" 'Cause you don't. No, I'm American. We fly our flag. I've been to my mother's side of the family are Irish. Having been to Ireland a few times, you're going to see Ireland flags everywhere. The Scots love flying their Scottish flag, the Welsh the same. As soon as you put an English flag up, oh, it's racist. How have we got to this stage? It's a madness to me. It's a madness. But what's it called? Razor Colours. The movement to fly our flag. I actually feel, when I see the flag, I don't view it and say, yeah, you lot get out of my country. I'm a gammon. I look at it and say, yeah, we should be proud of our country. Yes, our country has done things in the past. Yes, so has every other country. Yes. Should we acknowledge the mistakes we've made? Yes. Are you going to blame me for things that my ancestors done? That's bollocks. How far back do you want to go? Maybe Italy owes us money for the Romans invading. Maybe Italy should be embarrassed. What they done to this country. It's just something that doesn't make sense to me. So, Britons take to the streets at dozens of sites across the UK as anger over crisis reaches fever pitch. Now, this is to do with the small boat arrivals. Anti-immigration activists and counter-protesting groups have taken to the streets of Britain as anger over the migrant issue reaches a fever pitch. Protests are taking place in 14 locations nationwide this weekend in hotspots where refugees are housed, London, Essex, Birmingham, Leeds and Norwich have all seen large demonstrations. The Met Police face particular pressures ahead of Saturday's anticipated pro-Palestine gathering in central London. In the last month, Britain has seen a series of protests with members of the public concerned about the safety implications of housing asylum seekers in their local communities. We've heard some stories, and like I said, if 99% of them are decent people, it only takes 1%. And if we don't know who they are, we don't know who that 1% is. As a dad of 3 daughters, and I have a wife, I hear some of the stories and I'm fucking angry too. You know what I mean? Doesn't make me racist. I just would, like, we should at least know who these motherfuckers coming into the country are, you would think. You know what I mean? That's kind of, someone knocks on my door, I don't open it and say come on in before I know who the fuck it is. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? You know, and all these open borders lovies, why'd you have a lock on your front door? Why? Take the lock off your door and then I'll listen to you. You know what I mean? Organised demonstrations usually have several hundred people at a time, but sometimes thousands. Anti-immigration activists are also present outside the buildings, which are believed to be housing asylum seekers. So this was 5 months ago. Just to read, Bournemouth locals are simply frustrated with migrant hotels. A Bournemouth local has compared the seaside town to the Wild West, as he declared Britain's migrant crisis is out of control. They are definitely not in control of it, put it that way. This was 5 months ago. More than 26,000 small boat migrants have arrived since the start of the year. That's about the population of the town where I'm from. Small town, I know, but when I look at my town, I think, I don't know all the people that live in my town. And that many have arrived. And this was 5 months ago, so that would have been what? July, August time. Not sure what numbers got to in the end. So Liverpool protesters say they are sick of the state of Britain's migrant crisis. Do you know what? British people as a whole, British people, the British public are some of the most caring, kind people, will do what they can to help people. We've got some of the most incredible charities here. I myself do some charity work. People I know do charity work because it's kind of what we do. But one thing about the Brits is that there's a meme about queues. You know, we love a queue. It's not that we love a queue, it's we love fairness. The sense of fairness. And when you feel like something is unfair, it gets you back up. Now, story that I heard today is they are looking at allowing immigrants, potentially, I don't know the terminology, but people who come across on boats to free up the room in hotels to save money, giving them council houses. I know people who are desperate for a council house, who are struggling to pay bills, struggling to throw 3 meals together, that see these people being housed in hotels, given 3 meals a day, and now being pushed in front of them on the council house list. This country's going to go off. It's pretty bloody obvious, isn't it? It makes you wonder whether it's something they want. I don't know. I hope not. I want peace. I want my children to grow up and have the most enjoyable life that they can, with no fears, no worries. we seem to be led by morons at the moment, and this isn't a go just at the current, the previous lot were the same, and the previous lot were the same, and you can go back and back and back, and almost feels like we are the peasants who need to sit down, shut up, and do what we're told. We have a voice now, as long as we don't get arrested for that voice, because that's happening. So yeah, we've had a lot of, I wouldn't even call it anti-immigration protest. I would label it as we want fairness protests. There is a right and a wrong way to do it, and it seems like the wrong way is being rewarded. The British people are some of the best people in the world who will go out of their way to help, as long as you're not taking a piss. And it does feel like the piss is being taken. Now, to one story that hit myself hard. I'm a huge football fan, massive football fan, but more than that, I have Liverpool pictures in the background. Those who know me know I was born a red, I'll die a red. I have a 6-year-old and coming up to 6-month-old. They may well be the same. My 9-year-old daughter is as obsessed with football as I am, as obsessed with Liverpool as I am. We have Liverpool stuff all over our house. The passing of Diogo Jota, the lad from Portugal, is better than Figo, don't you know? Oh, his name is Diogo. It knocked me for 6. It knocked my daughter was at school, my oldest daughter, and I told her, and I don't think a day goes by where we don't talk about Diogo Jota, because we always talk about football. 20th minute, when Liverpool are playing, you best believe we are singing this at the top of our voice. Neighbours probably fucking hate me. This was a news story, a tragedy that completely came out of the blue. Well and truly came out of the blue, and one that it still doesn't feel real. And having seen, obviously, as a Liverpool fan, celebrating us winning the title last year, watching us struggle this year, and thinking, what did you expect? Diogo Jota was a brilliant player, someone who gave 100% to our club, somebody who always had a smile on his face. He scored some crucial goals for us, was part of a squad that won a lot of trophies. And above all of that, Diogo was a father. And that to go back to the I spoke of the Pope's passing earlier in this episode, and I'm sure there are some devout Catholics who that news hit them like this. I am a devout Liverpool fan and a father myself, and Diogo's passing, and his brother Andre Silva too. It hit me fucking hard, and to his family, I hope you know that everyone in Liverpool loves you, your kids, and every Liverpool fan around the world. We mourn your loss, we genuinely do, and Diogo and Andre, your brother, may you rest in peace, and I hope wherever you are, you know you are loved. And the outpouring of emotion, not only from Liverpool fans, but football fans in general. Love Diogo. I've since got myself a Diogo shirt. May he rest in peace. Couple more stories to round up this new year, and as I said, I know I've missed a shit ton of big ones. But been going on since, I think, February 2022. Can't believe how bloody long this has been going on. Donald Trump said he was going to sort it in 48 hours? Dragging your heels, mate. The war in Ukraine is never far from the news, because there is a fear, a genuine fear, rightly so, that this could spread, this has pulled us in. It could pull us in further. At the moment, there's talk of a peace deal is 90% done. %90 done. That's what Zelensky has said in his New Year's address. That last 10% seems like such a huge chasm between Russia and Ukraine. I know we all hope for peace. Unfortunately, the 10% is to do, I believe, with the Donetsk region, is it? Donbass region, sorry, and maybe both. Russia wants the territory. Ukraine said, piss off, it's ours, and it's a stalemate that I don't know. Something scary that Trump told us he was going to get it done. Now what do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet. Just some guy on the internet. But Trump, you did say you was getting it done. And I know it seems far away from America, but we don't want a world war. And with China and Taiwan as well, and Iran, and let's hope that 2026 is a more peaceful year. But speaking of things that Donald Trump also spoke on, the Epstein files. He said there was going to be transparency, and now when he's asked about it, he's quite narky about it. So the Epstein files latest, over 1 million more documents potentially related to Epstein case uncovered. So we're continuing to go through the tranche of Epstein files released yesterday by the US Department of Justice. So this article is from Christmas Eve. Latest batch of Epstein files contain more than 11,000 documents. Our team continued to work through them. Over 1 million more documents potentially related to Epstein case uncovered, says Justice Department. Women recalls are by Epstein and other men in underground location and email. Trump listed as a passenger on Epstein jet 8 times between 1993 and 1996. That's not to say he did anything wrong. Fake documents released and outright lies told over Epstein files being named in the files and does not suggest wrongdoing. This was a conspiracy theory a few years ago, and now it's like, how far does this go? So when I talk about stuff and people say I'm a conspiracy theorist, a joke I like to make is difference between conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months. It's about 6 months. Remember when COVID coming out of a lab was a conspiracy theory? Actually, according to the BBC, a far right conspiracy theory. I was so happy when the BBC called me a far right conspiracy theorist, because I disagreed with lockdown and because I thought that it was more likely come from that lab over there where they're making this shit, rather than some dude fucks on battle saying, what do I know? This has been a mental year. This has been, honestly, I would say since 2016 was, I think 2016 was Brexit. I think that happened, and Donald Trump was laughed at because he was running for president and got in. COVID happened, Russia, Joe Biden, sleepy creepy Joe Biden, easily forgettable, probably because he forgets himself. Then Trump got back in, Capitol riots, we've had protests everywhere, Palestine, Israel, migrant protests, all sorts of shit. I would say the last few years have just been, it honestly feels like we are wrapping up to the end of the series and they're trying to squeeze in all the shit that our creators have not quite got in. They've got to get it in for the end of the series. I'm not sure if I want to see what the season finale is going to be. And do you know what, on a serious note, there's been a lot of talk on aliens this year. UFOs, UAPs, they call them now. We are at such a, it's almost like every year has to one up the previous one. It kind of feels how it is. It's like a crescendo building to that season finale. And underneath all of that is a steady rumble on of UAP stuff, and I think that's the only thing left now, isn't it? Genuinely. An alien invasion or aliens coming down and sharing, enlightening us all and showing us the path, or whichever way it decides. I'm not sure if the creators have quite decided which way they want to go yet. Maybe that's why they're holding off. Please let 2026 be a better year. I beg of you. Whoever's writing this simulation or looking down on us from heaven or whatever it may be, give us a good year. I hope you all have a bloody good year. I hope it's a lot calmer than last year. That would be nice. That would be nice. So that's my first one done this year. And do you know what? I'm taking my own advice or my own thing that I'm asking for. I'm finishing with a smile. I'm happy. Life is good. It's going to be good this year. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the damn video, share. Thank you so much for watching. Please give us a good year this year. And until next time, I'll see you later.